What a wonderful winnings from Jaiswal. It's just a shame that it doesn't count. That's not me speaking. That's the sort of thing I started seeing on the internet. And I get it. This West Indian team is not inspiring a lot of confidence. And there are innings in Test cricket that probably shouldn't count. One of the most famous was when the West Indians protested the New Zealand umpires by helping Richard Hadlee get to 100. Even the great man himself didn't really rate it. And based on the West Indies cricket so far in this test, it would be easy to lump this innings in as one that doesn't count. On day one, the West Indians batted like they were new to the sport. I mean, their number 3 is Raymond Reifer, who averages 29 in first-class cricket. And he's batting in the spot that Viv Richards, Frank Worrell, Garfield Sobers, George Headley, Rowan Kanaya, Richie Richardson, Shiv Narayan Chandrapal and Brian Lara once filled. And Reifer is an all-rounder with 1 first-class 100. He may not even be the best person from his family to bat at number 3 for the Windies. And the last one played during a strike. If you look at their batting, their best guy is their captain who averages less than 35 in his career. And if you look at the last decade, he's the only mainstay. 2 of the 3 others with higher averages are from the Chandrapal family, and the other one is Chris Gale. Oh, they also dropped Bonner. This has been a tragic batting lineup for quite some time. So if you're sitting there going, Jaiswal's innings doesn't count, the West Indies are horrible, they most certainly are. But not on both sides of the ball. They're a fairly strong middle-of-the-road bowling lineup. Nothing great, but enough to keep teams honest and win the odd match. If you check their runs per wicket by bowling, subtracted from the batting, they're still coughing up more than 10 runs per wicket. And that's almost entirely from just a lack of batting. Kimber Roach is a fantastic bowler. I thought when he was young he had the tools to be a great player before his car accident. But even though he never quite got to those heights afterwards, he has been a star for a very long time. Since the beginning of 2017, he has more than 100 wickets at a bowling average of 25. That's proper talent. However, if you just look at him against left-handers, he is the best against them in the world in that era. He was probably the first to embrace the round-the-wicket cult, and he was so good that he inspired many others to try it. Being that Jaiswal is a left-hander, there is no way he has ever faced a left-handed killer anywhere near the level of Roach, especially with the Duke's ball in his hand. However, Roach barely bowled. He delivered 11 of the West Indies' first 98 overs. He did very well with the new ball, but there was no challenging later spells because there was pretty much no later spells at all. Mind you, when he finally did come back with the second new ball, he should have taken Jaiswal LBW, but sadly they were out of reviews by then. However, Roach is kind of on his own as being the only bowler from the West Indies who's very good against the lefties. So you won't see Jason Holder on a list of Southpaw slayers. He much prefers the righties, though he certainly bowled some good spells in this game. But while there was bounce in this wicket, he also needs a little bit of lateral movement, and this really wasn't the surface for him. It would be fair to say that while Alzari Joseph is a talent, we haven't seen that much of it at the test level yet. But when we do see him at his best, it's against right-handers. And you could see in this match he looked far more likely to dismiss Rohit than he was Jaiswal. Jamal Warrican is a left-arm finger spinner, so as such he obviously prefers to bowl to right-handers than lefties, especially early on in the test. But he did have some rough to bowl to pretty much from the start, as this wicket was crumbly. He also has 300 first-class wickets at 21, so he's definitely a talented bowler. And then there was Rakeem Cornwall, who as an offie you would assume would be really good against left-handers, except for so far in his test career, he has not been. Part of that, I think, is because he doesn't actually have a very good straight ball. He does have one, of course, but batters seem to pick it quite easily. But he doesn't get to bowl on many wickets like this. This has spin and bounce. Basically, the two things that Rakeem would love the most. And he certainly worked Jaiswal over. And the ball was really spinning for him. He beat the bat a lot, had some close LBW shots, and certainly put the most consistent pressure on Jaiswal. Of course, after a while, he just left the field with a chest infection, and we never really saw him again. And he wasn't the only one. As Jaiswal got near his 100, Holder left the field for a while as well. Eventually, Joseph left the field. The West Indies used 9 bowlers. It was certainly one of those innings where everything falls apart. But the point is, when this was actually all assembled, this was a decent bowling attack, even if it wasn't set up to kill left-handers. But there's something else I want to mention here, because when players make runs against lower teams, people question their worth. But I've never understood that. You are supposed to make runs against poorer teams. I don't trust any batter who can't crush a poor attack. The 2 best attacks that Bradman faced were the West Indies and England. And it was mostly England, as he barely played the West Indies at all. But he destroyed the weaker bowling of South Africa and India in his period. And if that's too far back for you, let's go a little bit more modern. Sachin Tendulkar. He tortured Bangladesh and Zimbabwe, and the other weaker attack, at least for parts of his career, was Sri Lanka. If you are good at making runs, you should make more against poor teams. There is no doubt that the hype around Jaiswal has grated on some people. Simon Hughes' 40 not out tweet certainly annoyed a lot of people online. There's a reason why a lot of people, especially former players, are very excited. Even if you don't rate this West Indies attack at all. Technically, Jaiswal looks rock solid. He has already worked out batting tempo, he has incredible confidence, and he can work his way through tough parts of an innings. He just looks like a test bat already. He does not look in development in any way. There is no obvious flaws that would need to be worked on to stay at this level. Just as he is, he looks ready to fly. As far as debuts go, not since Joe Root have I seen a player and just thought, oh, there is my next 10 years. That doesn't mean that a lot of things can't go wrong. Many great players fail, and it will only get harder from here. But there is a difference between making 100 in the third innings with a lead against a team with no real threats and what Jaiswal has done. He blunted the new ball, pulled back against the offie, handled the spin and bounce, played within himself and batted an entire day of Test cricket. Writing off this innings is a bit like when people say, oh, that guy's a flat track bully. If you're not awesome on flat wickets, you're not of much good to anyone. If you can't destroy a broken attack, you're not going to handle the better teams. And remember, this was all on a pitch that Virat Kohli took 80 balls to score his first boundary on. So we can't just write off being fluent at the other end. This was a quality 100 from Jaiswal, no matter how you look at it. And that includes the bits where, he had to face Greg Brathwaite.